proposed, I'm the type of candidate that can work with the General Assembly to get legislation passed. An area I would focus on, I do think we need to take a look at whether or not all business information submitted to the Economic Development Cabinet is automatically confidential. That's an area where perhaps too much has been withheld in the past. Thank you.
Mr. Bullock.
Thank you. I would echo the thoughts of most of the other candidates and agree that we should and will, and if I were Attorney General, will emphasize open records, open meetings, and open government. My philosophy is that government must be transparent and that the public has a right to know what is going on in its government. And I believe it is a foundation of our government in Kentucky. Now, we have been blessed with an excellent staff in the Attorney General's office. And here tonight, we have with us a person that probably writes the majority of the Attorney General's opinions on open records and open meetings. That's Assistant Attorney General Amy Benson-Haver. The Director of the Civil Division, Rob Jones, is also here. I believe that I agree that we should probably consider strengthening the open records law and the open meetings law, but basically it is an excellent law and one that, when enforced, will add to the quality of life of the people of Kentucky. And so I am echoing what everyone else just about is saying. We should enforce the open meetings and open records law.
The second question, and heads up, Mr. Larson, this one's getting tossed to you first. The General Assembly passed a law in 2006 that requires the Attorney General to prepare educational materials about the open meetings and open records laws to be shared with newly elected public officials. Will you ensure that your office prepares these materials to help public officials understand these sunshine laws? And are there other ways you can see the Office of Attorney General convincing public officials that they must conduct the public's business in public? Mr. Larson.
Answer is yes. I could say more, but that office has provided me with information that they can provide to the legislators. Anything more than they could provide? Well, I would hope the legislators ask. If they ask, they'll get things. It's a wonderful office. I thank Amy.
Mr. Coleman.
Yes, obviously, and I think that kind of goes into my answer to the last question, is that I think the materials, and the Attorney General Office does supply materials both in hard copy and over the internet. I think the real issue, is the interpretation of that and having someone who is knowledgeable to assist those when they get specific requests. Attorney General or requests for open records really have to be looked at on a case-by-case basis. It's not something that you can really just say generally that this category will fit, because there are exceptions for personal records, personal information, a number of different categories, and it can be confusing to elected officials who don't have the experience with those type of requests. The Attorney General's office cannot give opinions to those individuals, so they may be, in fact, the ones who have to respond to an appeal if that request is denied. So I think the materials are a great first step in filling that void, but there should be another resource available to those officials to address those issues.
Mr. Kimball.
Well, I was a state employee for 7 years, and one of the first rules of being a state employee is whenever you get a chance to do training, say yes. It's wonderful. Obviously that was a great law, because the more local officials know, and they have a lot to do. I mean, you go into a county clerk's office, and they're just swamped all the time. So any way you can help them do their jobs is great. So I'm all for that.
Mr. Bullock.
Yes, I think the quality of the educational materials have been traditionally very good when they come from the Attorney General's office. And if I'm elected Attorney General, they will continue to be very good. I would support the idea of having conferences for local officials and state officials on the open meetings and open records law. Sometimes, or maybe many times, mistakes are made, and they're simply mistakes. Individuals don't understand the law and don't understand how to apply it. So one of the things when I'm elected Attorney General will do is have conferences sponsored by the Attorney General's office, invite local officials to come and learn about the law, have the experts in the law explain it to them, and also do the same thing for state employees. I think this will be of major benefit to all people of the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Mr. Conway.
Thank you. I would like to echo what most everybody up here has said, and that as Attorney General, I would certainly enforce the 2006 law, prepare the materials, make the materials as informative as they can possibly be. I would also make it clear to all the public agencies out there, whether state or local or universities, that I intend to narrowly construe any exceptions to the open records law. And thirdly, like everyone else has said, there's no harm in educational sessions. Make the Office of Attorney General available to the records custodian of the various agencies or to the presiding officers in charge of the open meetings. If we have a new administration in 2007, as I'm hopeful, certainly there's a role for us in helping to educate them. And if we don't have a new administration, well, it seems that our current one could use a refresher course on records that are likely to be turned over. So,
Mr. Conway, this next question will go first to you.
okay.
Along those same lines, as Attorney General, would you advocate for any changes in the state's current sunshine laws? If so, what changes would you advocate? And would you generally support changes that would allow more access than provided now or less?
The major change that I think needs to be addressed in the state's open records law is the presumption that all material given in the Economic Development Cabinet is closed. For years, there's a very specific provision that says that businesses that submit information to the Economic Development Cabinet, any information about their business in conjunction with an application for a loan, grant, economic development incentive program, the presumption is that that is closed. For those of you who don't know, Gene Strong and Ben Chandler fought over this issue for many, many years. I don't want to make Kentucky an unfriendly state for business. That's not what I'm trying to do. But there has been some very serious legal comment in law review articles and other sources that say that perhaps this has gone too far. What typically happens in the procurement context, for example, is the vendor will come into the finance cabinet and submit information and say to the agency awarding a contract, this information is private, this information is confidential, it would hurt if my competitors had access to it. If the agency agrees, it's then redacted or held confidential. That